We were founded by a group of very dedicated and passionate Vietnam veterans more than 30 years ago who decided this is too much. Our brothers are dying on the streets. They have no proper home. Let's do something for them. Therefore, Welcome Home was founded.
And it was just 3 guys that had a desire to help other veterans and to love those people. We found out that on any given night, there was 100 homeless veterans on the streets of Columbia. It's just terrible. Wintertime, there's tragedies. The story about those 2 brothers basically froze on the railroad tracks there in Columbia. Oldest brother died, and then the youngest one, he had his legs amputated. It just made us pound the table. We need a place for these people. We need to get them off the street, give them a place, some kind of a shelter, some kind of a home. If you served your country, did your job, you needed to have that welcome home because it was so needed back then, and it's still needed today. So we borrowed $100,000 and bought those 2 buildings, and the dream started to come alive.
They vowed to never leave any of these guys behind, or to do the best they could not to leave any of them behind. One of them took out a second mortgage on his home to get some funding. The rest of them, contributed what little money they had. These guys had no financial support to run it once they got it up and going. They just contributed personally due to a calling, a passion to not leave veterans behind. They didn't do it in the jungles of Vietnam, and they weren't going to do it here. They kept their head down and just kept doing what they did best and built a lot of success stories.
Without Welcome Home, I often wonder what my life would have been like. It's hard to imagine. Welcome Home filled virtually every need that I, as the United States veteran, needed at the time. Food, lodging, transportation, employment assistance, encouragement, morale building. That combination will help any veteran, no matter what their unique situation in life at the moment is.
Before I joined the board, I had a very small picture of what homelessness is and what causes it. That they're all, alcoholics or drug addicts, or, it was their choices that led them there. What I've learned since serving on the organization is that there's many faces to homelessness. A lot of times it was a small catalyst that they never saw coming that put them on a track that ultimately led to them being homeless. All the individuals we serve, regardless of what led them to homelessness, they were veterans before they were homeless, which means they did something really great for our country. It behooves us as citizens of the nation to remember that and also return the favor back to them in their greatest time of need.
I think it's incredibly important that people recognize they come home with wounds. They come home with so much trauma. Sometimes they don't come home with some of those mental and emotional and physical wounds, but many times they do. And when they do, where do they go? What happens if somebody doesn't have a social network or know how to work through the VA system? They're lost. They turn to things they might not otherwise have turned to, but it's because they didn't have direction, they didn't have people. These veterans deserve the best quality of life that not only they can thrive to achieve, but we can provide to help them. The building that we were in for so many years, we were maxed at 13 men that were able to call this place home with one of those kind, gracious souls sleeping on a couch. That did not allow us to serve female veterans with the same level of care and services, families, and really even just as important, those with disabilities.
When I joined the board in 2010, we were not doing enough. The organization was started to not leave veterans behind, and it was quite apparent we were leaving a lot of veterans behind. And on average, we were turning down about 3 veterans a week due to lack of capacity. And so we all knew at that time we had to do something more, and we had to expand. And then where to start from there was a big undertaking, given the fact that nobody had ever heard of us. I'm really proud of what we accomplished in that short amount of time, and I'm really proud of our community for getting behind us once they finally learned about what we were trying to accomplish and what we had been doing.
That's really where Welcome Home started to truly blossom as more than just a shelter. This place was thought about, dreamt about, conceptualized. The 32 rooms, the 34 beds, the community space, resource and technology center, our offices, even down to our conference room. And so from 2014 to 2017, we were able to raise the $3.5 million plus we needed to move into a 24,000 square foot facility for these veterans, completely debt free. If we did not have the caliber of support and the people and the hearts that we have behind this mission, it would not only not be as successful as it is, it wouldn't be as special as it is.
I can never thank Welcome Home enough. In fact, when I drove here for the first time at this new facility, I just sat in the car and cried. It was so moving to see. I just don't know what veterans would do without the services and the people and the donors at Welcome Home.
I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for Welcome Home. I would like to think I would have gotten a job and eventually I would have gotten a place to stay, but it would have been a much lengthier and a much more painful way. I would have been overwhelmed because I would have felt alone. Welcome Home gave me a safe space to collect myself and to focus just on the things I needed to focus on. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
What's neat about our population is, they're veterans. They know how to work. They know how to work hard. And they're willing to put the work in to get themselves out of homelessness. But the takeaway is it does take help. I mean, very few can overcome it on their own.
It's not just a 30-year anniversary. It's 30 years of wrapping our arms around veterans and their families and helping them get back on their feet and restore their lives. It's 30 years of changing people's lives who might not otherwise have had a chance. And I truly don't know if we ever can really do enough, but I can promise you Welcome Home will not stop until we do. My hope for 30 years is that Welcome Home has expanded our services, we've expanded our outreach and footprint, and we are across the nation doing this good work in order to make sure every veteran has a proper welcome home.